is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to get to this week, such as South Florida upsetting Florida. The Gators go down, but were the Gators at full strength, or did they have a bunch of players missing? Also, how about Miami, the U, taking down number 1 Texas on the road in Austin? How did the Hurricanes blow away the competition after losing set number 2? We had some other teams going down, such as Marquette losing to Western Michigan. That was a big one right there. And we also had Wisconsin surviving a pair of 5-setters. The whole Big 10, Big 12 showcase was outstanding. Also, the AVP League starts this week. We had some high school girls volleyball that was pretty exciting as well. Hand me a volleyball. Steps in it. Because I'm about to start getting some volleyball action here on Set Point. Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday, wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 263 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, especially Facebook, and on TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, which has most of our archived shows back when they were on Spreaker and right now that are currently on StreamYard. And make sure to follow us on several different podcast platforms such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, GeoSavin, Podchaser. The list goes on and on. Make sure to check out our website, isportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, for pages dedicated to each show, such as Set Point. And check out our merchandise shop where you can cop all of our tank tops, t-shirts, hoodies for the winter, and other IE Sports Radio swag. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. The way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at set_point.ie, and on Instagram at set_point.iesr, as well as Facebook. I really will do my best to try to keep the Set Point account going on Facebook. And the way you can follow me personally mainly is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez 1. Before we get on into the volleyball action, we have to pay homage to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. And let's also give us a word about who IE Sports Radio is, what IE Sports Radio is all about, and what we bring to the table. So without any further delay, let's do this.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole oven. planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
Thank you once again to Seal the Deal Wax Seals and Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And without any further delay, let us get on into the volleyball action. As Patty Bax popped into the chat room, she said, have a great show, as well as have an awesome show. Jen B also said, have a great show, Teran. I appreciate you. Also, I mentioned this on the last show when I had Emily Eamon on. I want to give a big shout out. I know I said so on X, formerly known as Twitter. I have to give a shout out to Jen B because she actually produced the show in the first half of the show when Emily Eamon was aboard. So she was the glue that kept everything together, and I greatly appreciate your kindness, and everything that you did not go unnoticed, Jen B. So I definitely do appreciate you producing the show. So speaking of the show from last week, since I did the show on Thursdays, it's kind of going to be a little faster of a week. So we're kind of back on track, but we're kind of going to only do the Thursday matches all the way from Sunday matches when it comes to the NCAA women's volleyball side of things. But with that being said, what a week we had in NCAA women's volleyball. So going back to week 2, obviously we had Nebraska losing to SMU, and then last Monday we had Texas losing in 5 to Minnesota, which I was able to watch that one. But we had other notable matches. So we didn't really get to see too many upsets, but we did get to see Creighton taking down USC in 4 sets. USC was in it for the most part in that 4th set, but those Creighton Blue Jays, they are just so darn good, dude. Like, there's a reason why they were ranked number 11 at the time, and you're about to see where they're at now. So just wait and see. Also on Thursday, we had number 17, or previously number 17, taking down number 25 UCLA. Now, UCLA, they were able to sneak their way into the top 25 after that amazing win over Georgia Tech in 5 sets on the road. But unfortunately, they just could not keep up with the likes of Tennessee. Tennessee is, even though they lost quite a bit to graduation, they're still pretty good. They got Hayden Kubik and plenty of others. Their setter is absolutely amazing. So there's that right there. And those were Thursday's matches. Then for Friday's notables, we had Louisville taking down South Dakota in 4 sets. South Dakota is a pretty solid team, if you ask me. I don't think they're anywhere near a bad team. And then the Friday and Saturday actually was the 2-part harmony of the Big 10 versus Big 12 crossover showcase, which I thought was pretty good. Jen V says, "Thank you, Teran. Emily is great. That was an awesome segment. I appreciate that, Jen." All right, but going back to the volleyball action, we had Penn State with a reverse sweep over Kentucky. This was a barn burner. Now, you all got to remember that Penn State stomped all over Louisville last Tuesday. Then they had to take on Kentucky at Rupp Arena. So they had the Bluegrass 2-step, which I think that's a good thing to call it because it's in Louisville, you know. But for Penn State, they were able to reverse sweep Kentucky, which I thought was rather impressive. Cameron Hanna led the way with 22 kills. Jess Merzik had 18 kills. Taylor Trammell, 12 kills. For Kentucky, they were led by Brooklyn DeLay, who had 20 kills. Aaron Lamb had 14 kills. Megan Wilson, she had 10 kills. Honestly, this is what great teams do. If you're Penn State, if you're a Penn State fan, you're breathing a sigh of relief because, honestly, that 3rd set was the key because that one went into overtime, but Penn State was able to take that one at 26-24. And then they also took another tight 4th set, 25-22. And then the 5th set, Penn State just ran away with it pretty much. So I was rather impressed by that win. Now, Kentucky, unfortunately, this is a tough one for them, losing at home, getting reverse swept at home. But honestly, there were a lot of 5-setters and a lot more reverse sweeps. So I don't think they should be too bummed out about it. But I think Kentucky still is an SEC contender. Now, are they on the level of Texas? I don't know. But I still think there's going to be a tough out for anybody come SEC play. Obviously losing Reagan Rutherford to the transfer portal to Texas is tough. They're still trying to find their footing when it comes to that. But I think Kentucky is still in good hands this season. I think they'll be just fine under the watchful eye of Craig Skinner. And then heading to Florida, speaking of the SEC, we had Florida losing to South Florida in 5. Oh, my goodness. South Florida had themselves a great weekend, and I really wanted to pick them as my team of the week, which is an honor that I always give out. But going into this match, South Florida was actually 1-3, but Florida was wounded all over the place. They didn't have Alexis Stuckey, no Kennedy Martin. Florida is literally licking their wounds as they wound up losing in 5 sets. Florida actually had 9 errors in that 4th set, 9 hitting errors for that matter. And oh God. If anything, Florida really needed Alexis Stuckey. Obviously, if you remember, she had that knee injury that she suffered against Wisconsin last year before in non-conference play. That was so tough. And then Kennedy Martin obviously is out. But if and when Florida gets healthy, there's going to be a tough and talented team. Do not count out Florida. Do not count those Gators. But South Florida had a balanced offense. They had 4 different players with 10 or more kills, which I think is pretty darn impressive. So you got to give it up to South Florida. Even though they hit 196 compared to Florida's 259, I think this South Florida team is going to be something special. They also beat Ohio State on Saturday in 5 sets. So nice little 2-0 weekend for South Florida. Normally when you beat a ranked team, you're emotions get a little high and you sometimes have that letdown loss, kind of like what happened with Long Beach State and when they beat Texas, only to lose to LMU, and then SMU, which wound up beating Nebraska on Tuesday. They also had a little bit of a stumble against LMU. Coincidence? I don't think so. But South Florida, I was rather impressed. They were oh so close to making my team of the week, as well as Penn State. But you have to love their weekend, getting 2 wins over 2 Power 5 or Power 4 conferences. 2 wins over 2 Power 4 conferences. That's pretty darn impressive. So there you have it right there. Oregon also was pushed to 4 against Colorado State. That was kind of interesting right there. But honestly, I knew Oregon was going to win that one. USC took down Kansas State, which is a solid team. And it's also the home of Steve Astor, former Set Point guest, where he's an assistant coach. And that was pretty much that. I'll get to the Big 10, Big 12 crossover in a little bit later. But for right now, we obviously have to address Saturday's matches. So Saturday's matches, oh man, there was quite a bit. So quite a bit of craziness, madness. We had Florida bouncing back with a win over Southern Indiana. Kentucky bouncing back with a sweep over James Madison. Creighton took down Kansas State in straight sets. Oregon survived a 5-setter against Grand Canyon. Oh my goodness. Grand Canyon led 14-11. And Oregon erased 3 match points and then scored the last 2 to win that 5th set and avoid the upset. It kind of reminded me of the Long Beach State match back a couple seasons ago when Long Beach State had 2 match points and then Oregon scored to eventually save 1 match point, and then Long Beach State hit it just out. And then eventually Oregon found the perfect opportunity to basically complete the comeback in that 5th set. This was the same way for Oregon against Grand Canyon. And you got to feel for those looks. Grand Canyon had themselves a nice little weekend last weekend. They actually had over 6,000 in their season opener, which I thought was pretty cool. So great job to Grand Canyon on showing up and showing out. I didn't give them their flowers on that one, but that's pretty darn good for a mid-major school. But Grand Canyon is legit. They definitely can win the WAC, or Western State Athletic Conference, or the Western Athletic Conference. And then Georgia Tech was able to upset BYU in 5. I'll get to that later, but we have to get into the big one, the big match, the big upset. We had number 1 Texas, which wound up losing to Minnesota early in the week in 5. Texas lost again in 5. Now, we can excuse the first one just because Texas, obviously, they were in like a neutral side and they were playing the second of a back-to-back after they played Wisconsin. But they lost to Miami. Now, Miami was actually undefeated going into this match. Previously, they had the day before they played Texas, they took down Indiana in 4 sets. That's a pretty good win. Indiana is actually a pretty solid team. Steve Ayer does an excellent job with this program. But, oh, man, the first 2 sets against Texas just took them to the shed. There's a reason why I wasn't too hopeful for this match. But in that 3rd set, Miami was able to eke out that 3rd set, 26-24. And then they just dominated early on and just never looked back as they took the 4th set, 25-18. And then Miami was able to ride that momentum into the 5th set, never trailed, only was tied once as Miami took that 5th set, 15-11, completing the sweep, reverse sweep over Texas, and it actually got their head coach their 200th win, which I thought was pretty good. So great work to the Canes, I'm sorry to Texas fans, but Miami, they were the reason why I picked them as team of the week, because Indiana is a good team, and reverse sweeping Texas in Texas, remember, it was in Austin, so that's the big thing right there. That's kind of the reason why I chose Miami. I would have chosen South Florida, but Florida was kind of wounded, and Ohio State is still kind of trying to claw their way back after missing the NCAA tournament. So I kind of feel that Miami deserves a little bit of respect, as Miami was led by Grace Lopez, who had 20 kills. Flo Marie Heredia Colon added 16 kills. As a team, Miami hit 241, which actually isn't bad. They held Texas to under 200 in terms of hitting percentage, as they hit 176. As Maddie Skinner led the way with 20 kills. Mariana Singletary, she added 12 kills. Jenna Wenas, she had 10 kills. She kind of struggled. And we also didn't really get to see a whole lot of Reagan Rutherford. She only had 8 kills. So they really got to get her more familiarized, more comfortable. I get it. She has a new team. But honestly, this Texas team is still stacked. And they're starting Avery Carlson. They're not playing Ella Swindle. I want to say she was injured after the NCAA tournament. She kind of got surgery, and she is starting to heal up, and hopefully she'll be ready sooner rather than later. So unfortunately, no Ella Swindle, which was the setter that helped Texas win that national championship for a second straight year. So they have to roll with Avery Carlson, the transfer from Baylor. So you have that right there. But Texas will be fine. Texas fans, please, 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 please do not hit the panic button. Texas will be fine. They always struggle early on, but then, and sometimes in conference play, but do not worry. You will be fine. Remember what happened last year. They lost to Long Beach State. I think they got swept by Stanford last year, and then they wound up stringing it together. They wound up winning the Big 12 for the last time, and we all know what happened in the NCAA tournament. So, Texas fans, you will be fine. Do not hit the panic button. Do not say, oh my God, the Texas team isn't as good. We miss Asia O'Neal or Molly Phillips. You will be fine. I guarantee it. If I'm wrong, I will gladly accept my dunking on. Anyway, so speaking of the Big 12, BYU, I've always seen BYU as a really good home team, but this wasn't really it. They wound up losing in 5, where Georgia Tech eked out a 5th set win, 15-13. So for Georgia Tech, this is kind of an interesting Georgia Tech team. I don't think they're the greatest ACC team. They're certainly not on the level of like Stanford and Louisville and Pitt, but they're still good. They're not great, as Tamara Otene. Tamara Otene had 24 kills. Larissa Mendez, she had 21 kills. Bianca Bertolino, she had 10 kills. As a team, Georgia Tech hit 239 compared to BYU's 229. The blocks were in favor of BYU 11-6, which I thought wasn't too bad. But Georgia Tech outdug BYU in digs 75-62, as BYU was led by Claire Little, who had 20 kills, but she was the only one in double digits in terms of kills. They got to get her some help. So, but I mean, the next kill leader was Blake Bobick and Ellie Mortensen, both having 8 kills. But this is kind of an interesting loss for BYU. Normally, BYU is such a tough place to play at. It's so tough to win at Smith Fieldhouse, higher altitude, raucous fan base. But Georgia Tech wound up making it look, I would say easy, but they wound up winning it kind of nicely. So I think that's a nice win for Georgia Tech. But for BYU, if they want to win that Big 12 conference, because I think that's up for grabs because Texas is no longer in the conference, they really have to cross their T's and dot their I's. They really have to execute down the stretch. It just goes without saying. And then jumping over, well, actually, let's finish up Saturday's matches. Other than the Big 12, Big 10 crossover, Kansas swept Western Michigan. That's a pretty good win, actually, just because Western Michigan is that NCAA tournament team. Like I said, Creighton wound up winning their match. Dayton swept Bowling Green. Dayton's is undefeated, but they haven't really played anyone too great, as that match against Ohio State, that unfortunately did not get finished. So I didn't talk about this last week, but unfortunately, Ohio State Dayton did not get finished, as it was just so hot in Dayton's gym, and everyone was sweating, and then everyone was slipping on the floor, and everyone was doing their part to try to make sure that the floor did not have a lot of friction, but it was to no avail. So unfortunately, the agreements of both coaches and both athletic departments, they said, let's call off the match. It was actually 1-1. Dayton won the first set 26-24, and then Ohio State wound up winning the second set. I think it was like 25-16. I could confirm that Dayton did not cross into the 20s. But after the second set, Dayton and Ohio State basically just called off the match. Now, I'm hoping those fans did get refunded, because if not, then I feel bad for them. So that's going to basically do it for Saturday's matches. And then Sunday, we had Western Michigan. I talk about how Western Michigan is pretty good. They are good because they took down Marquette, number 24 Marquette, in 4 sets, which I thought was a pretty darn good win. I didn't even know about this until after this whole crazy weekend of volleyball was done. As Western Michigan was led by Mary Claire Brusik, who had 20 kills. Koena Solisman had 19 kills. Western Michigan held Marquette to only a 175 hitting percentage as they were led by Aubrey Hamilton, who had 12 kills. Carson Murray added 10 kills. But it wasn't enough as those Broncos were able to take down Marquette, the Eagles, in 5. Western Michigan had a whopping 102 digs. Marquette also had 97 digs. There was almost 200 digs combined in this match. That was just incredible. And there was not a lot of blocking from Western Michigan, but those digs really helped pay dividends. Andolyn Simpkins had 39 digs. 39. Absolutely amazing right there. And then also on Sunday, we had Auburn. Oh, man. The Auburn Tigers taking down number 15 Florida State in 4 sets. I want to say that's Florida State's first loss of the season. And I know my buddy Mike Pat is not too thrilled about this. But the Tigers took down Florida State in 4 sets at Neville Arena. Auburn was led by Madison Shear, who had 15 kills. Lauren Drebs had 11 kills. Bella Bell had 10 kills. Florida State was held to only a hitting percentage of 124 as Auburn had a whopping 17 blocks to Auburn 6. And then they had 76 digs, but Florida State had 86 digs. But still, Florida State, they just got roadblocked, no pun intended, as Audrey Koenig had 19 kills. Corey Lewis added 11 kills. Taylor Head, 9 kills. But just was not enough as Florida State suffered their first loss of the season. So no undefeated season for those Florida State Seminoles or Noles. All right, but that is that for all the notable NCAA women's volleyball matches, except we have the Big 12, Big 10 crossover. And let me just tell you, every match from the Big 10, Big 12 crossover went 5 sets. It went 5. And if you're a fan of Cinco sets matches, you got your wish. So this all started on Friday where Wisconsin and TCU went 5. This all took place in Waco, Texas at the Farrell Center, the home of Baylor. And Wisconsin was able to win that match in 5. TCU led the match 2-1, but then Wisconsin kind of started kicking into overdrive. Wisconsin's played a tough schedule, and I think kind of helped them. They could not afford to be 0-4, let alone 0-5, as Wisconsin was led by Sarah Franklin, who had 20 kills. Devin Robinson had 17 kills. Cece Crawford, 12 kills. Charlie Furbringer, I think, looked a little bit more comfortable in that match. She finally got her feet wet in terms of facing some NCAA powerhouses. TCU isn't really a true powerhouse, but they're still a sneaky good NCAA tournament team. Remember, they have Melanie Parra, who led the way with 21 kills, while Jalen Gibson and Becca Kelly both had 14 kills. Parra also added 17 digs as TCU at 216 compared to Wisconsin's 271. Wisconsin needed this match in the worst way, so I'm just going to say I will also just say that Wisconsin winning that, or Wisconsin unfortunately losing that second set kind of didn't matter, but I will say TCU wound up grinding that second set out. There was 24 ties, 8 lead changes. It was a barn burner of a match. And if you were in Waco, Texas for both days of the Big 10, Big 12 crossover, I commend you. Second half of Friday's doubleheader featured Minnesota versus Baylor. Baylor was undefeated and stayed undefeated with a 5-set win over those Golden Gophers, who previously beat Texas in 5 sets. But unfortunately, the 5-setters just continued to bite Minnesota in the butt. Ugh. As Baylor wound up winning in 5. Elise McGee led the way with 18 kills. Ali Sizek added 16 kills. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. Kendall Murphy had 11 kills. They held Minnesota to 174 as the Golden Gophers were led by Julia Hansen, who had 16 kills. Melanie Schaffmaster had 27 digs along with 43 assists. I'll get to her a little bit later. Lydia Grote had 15 kills. Calissa Minity had 11 kills. Alex Acevedo had 10 kills. Unfortunately, it was just not enough as he filled for those Golden Gophers. Now, day 2 of the Big 10, Big 12 crossover was another banger. Wisconsin-Baylor got the party started. If I'm going in chronological order, I think that is correct. Yeah, it is correct. So Wisconsin-Baylor got the party started. And Wisconsin, oh man, they were so close to losing this one, but they were able to eke out the 5th set. I think they dodged 3 match points just like Oregon, and they wound up taking the 5th set 16-14. And that is such a big win for Wisconsin, handing Baylor their first loss of the season. That is a crucial win for those Badgers, as Wisconsin was led by Sarah Franklin, another 20-kill performance. Devin Robinson, 19 kills. Carter Booth, 12 kills. Charlie Furbringer, she had 12 digs to go along with 51 assists. Again, I think she's looking a little more comfortable as Wisconsin as a team hit 272. Baylor, on the other hand, they were led by Elise McGee, who had 15 kills. Kendall Murphy, 11 kills. Grace Carroll, 10 kills. If Baylor would love to have that 5th set back, late in that 5th set back, but unfortunately it was to no avail. And then the last match of the Big 10, Big 12 crossover, TCU, Minnesota. TCU pulled out a thriller of a 5-set win. The 5th set was decided 20-18 in favor of the Horned Frogs, pulling off the big win over Minnesota, who at the time was ranked 18. So the Horned Frogs were led by Melanie Parr, who had 30 kills, 12 digs. Jalen Gibson also added 21 kills. It helps when Melanie Parr has kind of a Robin to being her Batman, as both teams pretty much hit the same. They were in the mid 180s, as Minnesota was led by Julia Hansen, who had 23 kills. McKenna Wooker, she had 16 kills to go along with 9 digs. Melanie Schaffmaster, she had a special performance, 10 kills, 21 digs, and 47 assists for a triple-double. That hasn't been accomplished at Minnesota since 2016, I want to say. But the fact that Melanie Schaffmaster had a triple-double and Minnesota unfortunately lost, oh, you got to feel for her. You just want to give her a big hug and say everything will be okay. But I have to commend Melanie Schaffmaster on getting a triple-double. That is absolutely amazing. It's so rare to see triple-doubles in the sport of volleyball. So great job to her on getting that triple-double. If there are any other stat nuggets out there, do let me know. Just like, let's finish up this matchup. Julia Hansen, like I said, she led the way with 23 kills. And yeah, I pretty much got all of that. Both teams nearly had 100 digs, as Minnesota had 99 digs, TCU had 95. The blocks were there as well, as TCU had 12 blocks, Minnesota had 11 blocks. So there you go. And Drewski, speaking of DFW, Drewski said, I heard there was an upset happening in college volleyball. Oh, yes, too. I was just talking about TCU upsetting number 18 Minnesota. That was a big one. And then, obviously, last Tuesday, I talked about with Emily Eamon, SMU took down number 2 Nebraska in straight sets, where Nebraska led 21-16, but unfortunately just could not hold on in that first set. And that was the tone setter, because SMU wound up beating or sweeping Nebraska in front of 6,000 plus fans. I think it was like 6,135. I don't know the correct number off the top of my head, but SMU wound up winning in straight sets in front of 6,000 plus fans on their home court. And that was a big, big win for SMU. Sadly, they kind of fell apart to LMU, but it is what it is. But SMU is still doing a great job this season. I think they're going to be a sneaky good team in that ACC. As Drewski says, pony up Dallas. And I appreciate you checking in, Drewski. He says, hope you're having a great show. I appreciate you. Salute to you, my brother. Definitely check out Heart of Texas Sports with Drewski. But to close off the Big 10, Big 12 crossover, absolutely amazing. I wish I could have been there, but hey, what can you do? It was just a wild week of volleyball. Heck, even some of the more not so notable matches were going 5. Like I checked out Long Beach State Northwestern on Thursday. Long Beach State wound up winning in 4 sets that match. And they wound up getting Natalie Regan her first win of the season, or first win as head coach of Long Beach State. She's had other coaching stints, and she had obviously the great tenure at Harvard Westlake High School in Studio City, California. And then the second match between Long Beach State and Northwestern, that one went 5. Long Beach State was tearing through the match, the first 2 sets in quite nicely. And then Northwestern made a setter change. They made sure their setter was on the right side. And I think that was a crucial one. And then Northwestern actually led 6-3, but Long Beach State went on an 8-0 run, courtesy of the strong serving of Maddie Collins, as they led 11-6, and they never looked back. So Tim Nolan is still searching for his first win as head coach of Northwestern women's volleyball. But you got to feel for Northwestern. They've had, of their 4 losses, they've had 3 losses in 5 sets. And then they had the 4-set loss to Long Beach State. But I think we can excuse that just because obviously they were playing in front of a packed house. Okay, maybe not packed, but 1,600 in attendance. That's still pretty good for a midweek match. So there you have it right there in terms of week number 2 of the NCAA women's volleyball season. I'll be going over the AVCA top 25 on the other side of this break. Also got to give a shout out to Ralph Calise. He says, good evening, Teran, the volleyball guru. Have a great show. I appreciate you, Ralph. But let's take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we'll have the AVCA top 25 to go over, and we'll have some AVP to discuss. And we'll also discuss a little bit of some USA women's volleyball in terms of the sitting side of things. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From where we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Heart of Texas with my man Drewski, as well as Big Cheese Sports with Bernie Bango. I have to give a shout out to Davidson Crooks, who's also in the chat room. He says, hit that like button. Hey, do what the man says. Hit the like button. Subscribe to IE Sports Radio. Before I continue, now that Davidson mentions the description of shows, I will just say I do apologize if I didn't put the timestamps in when it came to the previous show. I will also just say, though, my interview with Emily Eamon starts at 9 minutes, and I think it goes all the way to like 40-ish minutes. That's from last episode, though. So I apologize if I wasn't able to put in the timestamps from the previous show. I will do that after I get done with this show, and I will for sure put the timestamps in this week's show. I promise you. I'm sorry to everybody. All right, but with that being said, let us get on into the AVCA Top 25 for week number 3. So coming up on your screen, abracadabra, alakazam. We have the AVCA Top 25 for week number 3. So we have a new number 1, and that just so happens to be Pitt at number 1. Then you got Stanford at 2, Penn State at 3, Louisville 4, Nebraska 5, because remember, well, Penn State didn't lose because they wound up beating Louisville and they wound up beating Kentucky. And then Louisville lost to Penn State. Nebraska lost to SMU. Texas lost twice last week. Purdue still sits at 7. Wisconsin fell all the way down to 8 after their early season losses. Creighton moved up to 9. They're still undefeated. And Kentucky, they're still in that top 10. So there you go. Hold on. Let me just get rid of the banner. There you go. And then Kansas, they moved up to number 11. I think they're a sneaky good team right there. Kansas was picked to win the Big 12. I think they are a very scary team that no one wants to face down the stretch. I think it's going to come down to them and BYU. Then 12 is Oregon. They kind of survived a scare from GCU and Colorado State, like I mentioned. Florida is 13 after the poor wounded Gators wound up losing to South Florida. 14 is Arizona State. 15 is Georgia Tech. 16 is Tennessee. 17 BYU. Baylor 18. Minnesota 19. Miami, they have cracked the top 20 or top 25 as they check in at number 20. It's actually the highest they've been ranked. Well, other than the year where it was 2021 in the post-COVID era where they wound up where there was not a whole lot of teams participating at the time, and they were ranked number 11. So other than that time, this is their highest ranking in a full season. Then 21 is Florida State after that loss to Auburn. 22 is Arkansas. They're still undefeated, but they haven't beaten anybody big time yet. 23 is USC, which we'll be talking about that in a little bit. 24 is Dayton, still undefeated, but unfortunately, they haven't played anyone too big. And then 25 is TCU. They're checking into that top 25. So there's your top 25 right there. It's interesting to see some of these teams still in like the top 15 or top 10 or top 20 or something of that sort. Some are saying Florida is too high. Some are saying Oregon is too high. Some are saying Kansas should be in the top 10. I will see. I will hopefully see Kansas beating somebody good, but we'll see. All right, but that is going to do it for the AVCA Top 25. I just want to get that out there right there and then. So I think it's going to be another fun week of some NCAA women's volleyball. So let's go over some of these matchups to watch for in week 3. As I guess I didn't really put other notable matches, but the matches start on Tuesday. So the big time matches actually start on Tuesday, where Nebraska and Creighton face one another. Oh, that's going to be a fun one. For all you Nebraska volleyball fans out there, or for all you Nebraska fans out there, or Nebraska fans in general of volleyball, that's going to be a good one. Nebraska hosting Creighton, that's going to be a barn burner. Drewski says, TCU in the top 25, go Frogs. Yep, Horn Frogs, baby. And then you got Stanford versus UC Santa Barbara. That's kind of a sneaky good matchup, but let's be real. Santa Barbara lost way too much to graduation. They're kind of struggling out the gate, still trying to figure out who they are. So I feel Stanford's going to win that one quite nicely, but don't count out those Gauchos. Tennessee plays Western Kentucky. That's a sneaky good game. These are Tuesday's matches, so you have that to look forward to. SMU Baylor, that's a nice little matchup right there. Nice little in-state rivalry right there. Let's see if SMU can pull off another ranked win. They're kind of on the outside looking in when it comes to making that top 25. By the way, the photo that I showed you, that's courtesy of the AVCA. Don't want to get copyrighted and basically sent to or canceled and whatnot. But that's pretty much that for the notable matches for Tuesday. Jumping over to Wednesday, we have USC versus Pitt, which that's going to be a fun matchup. And believe it or not, I'm going to be at that match. So Wednesday, I will be there at USC. I should be there. I'm 95% certain I will be at Pitt at USC because that's a very good matchup right there. I just need to get the green light to basically go to that matchup and be a media member. So I really want to go to that SC Pitt matchup as a media member. If for some weird reason I can't, I will be at Long Beach State for Long Beach State Omaha, which won't be as exciting as USC Pitt. No offense to Omaha or Long Beach State, but let's be real. Ranked versus 500 versus a team having not won a match. Nothing against Omaha. Don't take that personally, but I will say, I think everyone, if they had the option of going to a match, they'd obviously pick Pitt SC in a heartbeat. So don't take it personally. So also on Wednesday, we have Stanford versus Pepperdine, kind of a rematch of the first round matchup 2 years ago between the Waves and the Cardinal. Florida, Georgia Tech, that's another good matchup on Wednesday. That's going to be a banger of a matchup. So that's the notable matchups for Wednesday. Thursday, we have BYU versus San Diego, two former West Coast Conference teams facing one another. Well, BYU is the former West Coast Conference team. San Diego is still in the West Coast Conference. They're going to look to try to have a better season this year after missing the NCAA tournament a year after they went to the Final Four. Arizona State, Wichita State is kind of an underrated matchup. I think it's a sneaky good matchup, but Wichita State's kind of struggled out the gate. But those Sun Devils are playing pretty darn good, if you ask me. And that's kind of it when it comes. Okay, LSU Baylor's kind of an okay matchup. I mean, LSU has pulled off some decent wins, but notice the word decent. Not great, decent. So if LSU were to beat Baylor, I would be pretty impressed if you ask me. But other than that, I think Baylor should handle them, but time will tell. And then jumping over to Friday, we have Arizona State taking on Nebraska at Nebraska. As much as I want the current Big 12 team versus the former Big 12 team, as much as I want to see Arizona State pulling off an upset, Nebraska has too much firepower. So honestly, I feel Nebraska should win that one. They obviously cannot afford another loss to a team below them. So, but we'll see. Pitt Pepperdine, as good as SC Pitt is going to be, I think Pepperdine can kind of hang with Pitt, but let's be real. Pitt is number one in the nation for a reason. So I just think Pitt is going to have their way. I know it's going to be at Pepperdine, but I just think that Dan Fisher's team is going to be ready to go. Duke Penn State is kind of an underrated matchup, but I feel Penn State is just clicking on all cylinders, but we'll see. Kentucky SMU, that's a sneaky good matchup. If there's ever a week for SMU to prove that they belong in the top 25 like TCU, it's this week. They've got Baylor, and then they've got Kentucky. They got to come up big. Creighton versus Northern Iowa, that's kind of a good matchup right there. I think UNI is a great, okay, not a great team, but a nice little sneaky good NCAA tournament team, and Creighton gets them as well as Nebraska. That's a good, like, this weekend is such a big weekend for Nebraska. I think the next 2 weeks are so big for those Blue Jays. Oregon BYU is going to be a banger, and it's going to really test Oregon. That's going to be in San Diego, by the way. And then Auburn, Minnesota. Auburn can really prove themselves that they're a top 25 team if they beat Minnesota, but it's a time will tell process. Dayton, Western Kentucky, that's another underrated matchup. Illinois, Dayton as well. Illinois is an under-the-radar Big Ten team, in my opinion. I mean, everyone talks about the ranked top Big Ten teams. Illinois is a sneaky good team. So, and then Michigan's also undefeated as well. And then also TCU, UCLA. That's going to be another good matchup on Friday. It's going to be the battle of who will probably be at the low 20s when it comes to the next AVCA poll, barring any upsets. And then that's pretty much all of Friday's matches. I know I probably missed quite a bit, but I can't go over all of them. And then Saturday, there's Nebraska hosting Wichita State, which Nebraska should be able to win that one. I think Wichita State also plays Long Beach State, if I'm not mistaken, but that's not ranked on ranked. This week is Pitt's California week, as they've got SC Wednesday, they've got Pepperdine Friday, and then they've got Santa Barbara Saturday, which I don't know how I feel. I mean, that's good to basically go out to the West Coast to play some stiff competition. Those three teams did make the NCAA tournament, so I totally respect Dan Fisher's decision to face those three teams in Southern California. Oregon-San Diego might be an underrated matchup. Penn State-Princeton might be a nice little underrated matchup. That's kind of an EIVA matchup, but let's be real. Penn State is basically they're on a whole other level. Marquette-Dayton is kind of a nice little matchup. I know Marquette dropped out of the top 25, but this could be their week to hopefully get back into the top 25. But it's a time will tell process. And that's pretty much that for some of the notable matchups on Saturday. And then finishing off the notable matchups for this Sunday, we have Texas-Stanford, banger of a matchup. That's a top 10 matchup on Sunday. I want to say that's going to be, it should be on ESPN, if not ESPN2, where Creighton-Louisville is going to be the first of the doubleheader, which I think it's going to be fun. So Creighton-Louisville and Texas-Stanford, those are the matches to watch for on national television. Florida State-UCF is kind of a sneaky good matchup, but UCF is not the UCF from several years ago or a few years ago. And that should pretty much be that for this week. A funny little matchup is Miami versus Buffalo. No, not in the NFL, because we all know the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills are facing one another this week in the NFL. But Miami of Florida is actually playing Buffalo. So I wanted to make note of that right there. So, so there you go right there. And then Drewski says it's time to prove it for SMU. Yeah, it's their time to shine this week. I'm rooting for those for those SMU. What I forget their mascot. Are they the Broncos? I'm sorry to all SMU fans, but yeah, I'm rooting for SMU this week. I hope they're able to basically show everyone that they deserve to be at the top 25. So sorry if I'm blanking on SMU's mascot name, but that's going to basically do it for everything NCAA women's volleyball for this week. So I want to briefly go over this. The AVP League starts this week. So the AVP League is a new addition to the AVP. So last week I said that the AVP's next tournament is the Hermosa Beach Open. It's not an official tournament. It was basically something that everyone in Hermosa Beach wanted to have, just because the AVP did not have an official Hermosa Beach Open. But I think that's pretty good. It was sponsored by Wedbush Companies, so I'm not going to really go over that matchup just because there wasn't really a website, and I didn't really go to it because there was lots of volleyball happening. But the AVP League starts this week, and this week's matches will be at the UCLA Tennis Center. So Saturday, we have the New York Nitro taking on the Brooklyn Blaze. So, yeah. The AVP, like I said, they went all out with some of these names. These names are actually pretty much they're what it's all about. The New York Nitro and the Brooklyn Blaze, that's going to be this Saturday at UCLA Tennis Center. Then you got the San Diego Smash versus the LA Launch. And then Sunday you have the New York Nitro and the LA Launch, and then the San Diego Smash versus the Brooklyn Blaze. Go back to the previous episode of Set Point, as you will find out who's playing who. And there is going to be an AVP League Championship, so it kind of makes up for no AVP Championship from last season, but I would have liked to have an AVP Championship just because they couldn't agree on a site, and unfortunately, it's disappointing that there was no site in terms of the AVP Championship from last year, but it is what it is, and hopefully the AVP is able to keep it together. So I like this new AVP League. I like how they have team representatives. So I'm glad the AVP is basically expanding to all other states, because you never really see any tournaments in New York or Brooklyn, because unless it's like Atlantic City. So there you have it right there. And then San Diego and Los Angeles, that's obvious. Los Angeles is obviously home to the Olympics. And then San Diego has some beautiful beaches. So you're probably wondering, why are there only 4 teams playing like crossover matches? Well, let me tell you, that's not all the teams in the AVP. So there's going to be 8 weeks of AVP League, and half the teams in the league will be playing in 1 week, and then the other half will be playing in another week, and then another 4 teams will be playing in week 3, and then another 4 teams will be playing in week 4, and then so on and so forth, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. So honestly, I think this is going to be fun times. I will be checking out one of the AVP leagues this upcoming, AVP League sites this upcoming season, as it will actually be in my neck of the woods, being at the Honda Center, where I will get to see I forget the name of the Palm City name, but honestly, that's the team that Avery Drost plays for, and he's a former Set Point guest. So I gotta help out my boy Avery Drost, or support my boy Avery Drost. So yeah, the AVP League starts this week. If you're in the UCLA area or by the UCLA Tennis Center, definitely support the AVP. I'm not trying to endorse the AVP or promote it. I'm just saying support AVP just like you support NCAA women's volleyball, or men's volleyball, or beach volleyball, or anything of that sort. The AVP is volleyball too, so that's my little spiel on the AVP League. Not too much to go over from the AVP, as basically the league has begun and now it starts to get really real. So we're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to discuss a little high school girls volleyball, and then we'll recap the U.S. women's sitting volleyball team winning gold at the France Paralympics. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Galise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Galise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you with the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
And welcome back to the final segment of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Insert Report with Ralph Calise. For all you Pitt volleyball fans out there, my boy Ralph will probably be talking about that tomorrow. And also check out Ricky K's episode of New York State of Sports. It actually went live today at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern time. So definitely check him out. All right, well, let's talk a little high school girls volleyball. So in terms of high school girls volleyball, I actually did attend the Dave Mose tournament. I actually attended a little bit of day one and then all of day two. Day one doesn't really matter. That was kind of pool play. And I only could be at one side. I couldn't be at like one place or another place. I just couldn't be like in 50,000 places at once, especially since the side I was at, I actually conveniently needed to be there after the whole tournament. But I digress. So in terms of the Dave Mose tournament, Cathedral Catholic of San Diego, they were able to three-peat as tournament champions as they took down Mater Dei, the reigning national champion, in 3 sets. Now, before we continue, these matches are best 2 out of 3 instead of 3 out of 5. So you got to remember that that's too much volleyball to be playing if you're playing 3 out of 5. But I digress. So the first set, Cathedral Catholic really thumped Mater Dei as they took the first set 25-15. Second set, Mater Dei battled back from multiple match points from Cathedral Catholic, and they wound up taking the second set 30-28. Layli Ostavar was absolutely amazing. Layli, she obviously had a shoulder injury, which saw her miss the first 3 weeks of the season. And her first match actually came 2 days before the tournament, which I'll get into in a little bit. And then in the third set, Cathedral Catholic kind of jumped out to an early lead. They led 14-11. They led 14-10. Mater Dei scores 3 straight points. And then they score a 4th straight point off of a block. And then it's 14-14. But Mater Dei then misses a serve that goes wide. They missed quite a bit of serves. And Cathedral Catholic scored the final point off of a walk-off service ace from Madison McCarthy. Oh, my God. That's got to be the worst way to lose a match if you're Mater Dei. Missing a serve after battling back from 14-10, only to get aced after that. So for Cathedral Catholic, they're still as good as always, as May Cordes, who's actually committed to Yale. She was named the tournament MVP. Now, if you've seen Cathedral Catholic play, May Cordes is actually not a middle blocker, contrary to popular belief. She's actually an opposite, and then she has a little bit of a delayed set, and then she just puts the ball down. She's just very talented, and I think Yale is getting a really good player in May Cordes. I forget who else made all-tournament. I know Mater Dei's Presley Saunders and Emma Kingston made all-tournament for Mater Dei, but I know Sophia Johnson made all-tournament for Cathedral Catholic, and then I'm not sure who else made all-tournament from Cathedral Catholic as well. I do apologize for that, but Cathedral Catholic, they're still as good as always, and they're going to be a very tough out this week. They have a big week this week. So as of this recording, they're actually playing Torrey Pines on Thursday, which I think is going to be a big matchup. That's kind of the rival between those two. It's kind of like how USC and UCLA are rivals, and then Minnesota and Wisconsin are rivals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that Torrey Pines Cathedral Catholic match is going to be a banger. And if you're in the San Diego area and you're looking for some good high school girls volleyball, definitely check that out. So congratulations to Cathedral Catholic. Now, earlier in the week, I said Mater Dei saw the return of Layli Ostavar 2 days before the tournament final, or day 2 of the Dave Mose tournament. Mater Dei actually took down Mira Costa in straight sets. Now, this has been a little bit of a weird year for Mater Dei. They actually have not been at full strength throughout most of the season. Wesley Mataveo has another week of her sit-out period after she transferred. Emma Kingston was sick, I think, she was sick in week 3 of the season. And then, like I mentioned, Layli Ostavar missed the first 3 weeks of the season. Now she was back, and she really helped Mater Dei deliver a big win over Mira Costa. It was in straight sets. I was very surprised because I don't know what it is about Miracosta not beating Mater Dei at Mater Dei, but man, that's a tough one if you're Miracosta. But honestly, this is not going to be the last time Miracosta and Mater Dei could face one another. I think those two could face each other at Durango or the Nike Tournament of Champions in Arizona. So I think those two teams are still on a collision course to face one another. And the CIF Southern section has a little weird format for this year's playoff. So the teams will be put in divisions at the end of the season. Normally they put teams in divisions other than Division 1 at the beginning of the season, and then they basically finalize who's going to be in Division 1 and who's going to be in Division 2. Now they're going to put every Southern section team in a correspondent division at the end of the season. So I think it's a unique way. I think it's basically adding all the numbers and whatnot, and it kind of takes away some of the pressure off of teams that are currently not in the best situation, that could probably see themselves in a better situation. But I digress. So that's basically that for a little high school girls volleyball talk from last week. So this week, there's some good volleyball matches. I mentioned Torrey Pines Cathedral Catholic on Thursday. On Tuesday, Redondo Union will be playing at Sierra Canyon. So Sierra Canyon, according to Max Preps, they're number 1 in the nation, but I don't know. I don't know if they've earned the number 1 in the nation. We'll see though, but I think that's going to be a banger of a matchup. Redondo Union is so underrated. We talk about high school girls volleyball teams from California that are good. Redondo Union is good. Tommy Chaffins does an excellent job with his program, and they're going to get a big test against Sierra Canyon. Now, they have played a team like that, like in Marymount, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. They wound up losing that 1-5. But remember, this is the same Redondo Union team that beat Miracosta in the semifinals of the Ann Kang tournament and eventually lost to, I think it was Cornerstone Christian. Regardless, they lost to a team. Oh, no, it was Byron Nelson. I'm sorry. So Redondo Union lost to Byron Nelson of Texas in the Ann King tournament finals. But honestly, Redondo Union is still having a great season, and the Bay League is going to be a battle between them, Miracosta, and don't count out Palos Verdes. They've got Casey DeMaria, and I saw her play against Huntington Beach in the Dave Moose tournament. She was excellent. And then Miracosta obviously is still as great as advertised, obviously with Audrey Flanagan, Millie McGee. Those two. Millie McGee is committed to SC, and she's a setter, and she's the daughter of Chris Geeter McGee. So I have to throw that in there. I think that's pretty much that for some of the notable volleyball matches in terms of high school girls volleyball matches. I mean, I guess a sneaky good high school girls volleyball match would be, and this is me being biased, Newport Harbor at Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach suffered their first loss of the season to Mater Dei as they lost a 2-setter, but they played Newport Harbor in a Sunset League game. I'm going to be at that one just because Craig Pizzanti is a former Set Point guest, and also Newport Harbor is my alma mater. So I might just go back and forth on my personal account with the Set Point account, but I digress. So I think we're in for some good high school girls volleyball, and I can't wait for it. So all right, that's basically that when it comes to some high school girls volleyball. Now, before I end this off, I actually do want to give a shout out to this team, the USA Women's Sitting Volleyball team, as they wound up three-peating as gold medalists. So I talked a little about how the U.S. Women's Sitting Volleyball team is part of volleyball, and they deserve some coverage as well. They actually three-peated as gold medalists as they wound up taking down China in the gold medal match in 4 sets, which I thought was amazing. So basically, to go back to everything that the U.S. has gone through in terms of the Olympics. So their first match was on August 30th, and which was last Friday. I'm sorry, not last Friday, but the previous Friday. China actually beat them in 4 sets, 21-25, 25-20, 25-18, and 26-24. But that was in pool play. September 1st, which was the day after, USA stomped all over France, 25-5, 25-1, and 25-5. So Keep in mind, France was the host team. Then on September 3rd, the U.S. took down Italy in straight sets 25-21, 25-23, and 25-15. And then they automatically got put into the semifinals just because it was a shorter field as opposed to standard volleyball. So in the semis, the U.S. took down Brazil in 4 sets. Always a banger when the U.S. and Brazil face one another, as the set scores were 25-22, 22-25, 25-14, and 25-15. Then the gold medal match, the U.S. took down China in 4 sets, 25-21, 23-25, 25-20, and 25-22 to basically win their 3rd straight gold medal. And I thought that was incredible, if you ask me. So congratulations to Bill Hameter and his team. I'm sorry, my eyes just aren't fully working today. So, so congratulations to the U.S. women's volleyball sitting team. That is absolutely amazing. As the errors were China's 24, U.S. 17. So overall, it was so great. It was so great to see them winning the gold medal for the 3rd straight year. So next up for them, obviously they've got the off season. And then for Olympic wise, they've got the Los Angeles Olympics, I assume, in terms of the Paralympics. So I meant to say Olympic gold medalist, but I meant to put Paralympic. But honestly, they're Olympians regardless. So there you go. So congratulations to USA Women's Sitting Volleyball for bringing home the gold for the U.S. You've made the U.S. proud, and we could not be any more proud of you. All right, but that is going to do it for that little segment of the show. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you, even though you're probably off by now. But if you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I greatly appreciate you. Shout out to the chat room. Thank you to Drewski for popping into the chat room. Davidson Crooks are also popping into the live chat room. Ralph Calise also popping into the chat room. Jen B was also in there. Patty Bax was also in there. And anyone else that listened on X, formerly known as Twitter, I really do appreciate you. You mean a lot. I will be back next week at my normal time and day, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern on Monday. And then I should be live for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on Friday at 3 p.m. Last Friday was kind of an exception just because I was so busy and whatnot, but I digress. So for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. I will see you all on Wednesday, most likely at USC for Pitt USC. But in case anything changes, I'd probably be at Long Beach State for Long Beach State Omaha. But count on me being at USC for USC Pitt in women's volleyball. I will see you all on the other side. Have a great week, everybody. Peace.